Her name is Carla. She's an unemployed registered nurse who had been living in a broken down car on the streets of Wenatchee. That is until Laura Jakes came into her life. Now, Carla has a new van thanks to a successful GoFundMe campaign. I met up with both women recently for an interview at Riverfront Park. They're hoping that by telling their story, more lives can be improved. Wenatchee Valley certainly has its challenges with affordable housing, homelessness here, and how is the community dealing with this challenge, both as a community and individually? We have someone here who has quite an interesting story to tell. Laura Jakes, who works for the Chelan County Port District and the Confluence Technology Center, has quite a story to tell here about the person who's standing here between us, Carla, and really her story about overcoming a lot of adversity and basically living a life here in the Wenatchee area on the streets and in her car. And it's been, I'm certain, a challenge and really a difficult situation for you, Carla, first of all. But I want to find out about the story and how you two came together to really forge a friendship, a very good relationship, obviously, strong bond between the two of you. But how did all this come about, Laura?
Well, I was leaving a school board meeting one evening and I texted my husband and said, "Hey, can you come pick me up?" And he said, "No, I'm busy. I'm busy helping someone." Oh, okay. So I walked home and was sitting in the living room, kicking back, and he comes in the door and there was a dark figure behind him as he came in, and he said, "Hi, honey, this is Carla." Awesome. Didn't know quite what to do or how to react to that, but you know, as Carla, came to converse with us that evening and her story unfolded, it was pretty evident to me that she needed to stay with us for at least a little bit. And so we invited her to stay in our home for the next 2 nights, and things kind of progressed from there. Steve's my husband, and he gets a lot of credit for what's evolved here. He was driving down Chelan Avenue and saw a lady in distress. Her van was broken down near the Jack in the Box, so he, being who he is, jumped out of the car and helped her push it to the side. And I think when he realized that she didn't have a place to go, that this was her home, judging from the items that were in the car and even the cardboard signs on the dash, if I can say that, that he could not in good conscience leave her where she was, so he brought her home.
So what were your thoughts about that time?
I was shocked. I was shocked. And I have a good heart, and Steve has a good heart, but I didn't know what to do with it at first. But, like I said, as we started talking, and Carla told us that she had been homeless for 6 years, and I just could not let her go back out the door with nowhere to go.
From your perspective, Carla, what were your initial thoughts when Laura's husband asked you to come home?
Trepidation was the feeling. You never know what a person's motivation is when they ask you to come to their house. You always hope for the best, and because I was desperate at the time, that's what you just pray and hope that it was good intentions, and it turned out to be. And I'm very thankful because I don't know what I would have done if they hadn't stopped. I probably would have lost every belonging I had at that point if it wasn't for them.
It's hard, I think, for people who have a nice warm roof over their heads and a good hot meal every night to really fully identify or empathize with what you're going through. But can you give us maybe a sampling of what it's like for you to live in a homeless situation on a daily basis?
You have to, well, you have to find a bathroom that's open at night. In my personal situation, because you often have to get up and go to the bathroom. And to tell you the truth, I've learned to let it hang out sometimes without much consideration because of my situation. And but that's just the beginning. You have to find a place where you can take a shower without getting in trouble, and know the times and know how to get there. And you have to know where to eat if you've run out of food stamps, and when the meal times are, and you try and get into these places like the Bruce House, or into the Gospel House. And often when you're a newcomer, it's hard to get into those places. And when you do, the first little thing you do that's outside of the realm gets picked on. And so I've managed to get kicked out of all of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously you were living out of your car. The car was in need of repair, obviously. So, Laura, you came up with a solution.
I don't know if I should say this, but I called AAA. And we had the van towed down to the Quick Lube place on South Wenatchee Avenue, and Roland was very gracious and evaluated the vehicle and said, it's toast. It's toast, and there's no saving it. So Mike Walker happened to walk into the shop at that point, looking at some gem of a antique car there, and I said, "Hey, Mike, want to help us out?" And so Mike agreed that we could have the disabled van, towed to a piece of property that he owns on South Wenatchee Avenue, and that's where Carla's been living in a disabled vehicle for the last 6 weeks or so. So we are just very grateful to Jean, who owns the engine steam clean business there, and to Mike for allowing her that degree of safety for that length of time. It certainly was above and beyond the call of duty on their part.
So the bottom line is, obviously, you two have forged a lifelong friendship here, and
Probably so.
this and the fact that you have a van now is certainly convenient and makes it a little easier for you, but still, it's an ongoing issue. And Laura, I'm sure that you would agree that in terms of dealing with homelessness, this is a 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week situation, and you're just one story to tell. You can magnify that by I don't know how many here in the Wenatchee Valley, but it's a problem that our community really needs to deal with.
Yes, I completely agree with that. So basically the first 36 hours, that Carla came into our lives, we spent together. And we spent, trying to solve problems, trying to solve the problem of the vehicle, trying to solve the problem of where she was going to stay, trying to solve the problem of, if she could get a place to stay for a night, would that be acceptable? And, what about all the belongings in her vehicle? And then you had some business things you needed a prescription. So we went to the Columbia Valley Community Health, and we got that. And so by the end of that 36 hours, I was wiped out. I'm just telling you what, being homeless is no walk in the park. It is hard work. Even when we were driving around in my working vehicle, just trying to get things done and not being able to accomplish really much of anything, despite our best efforts. It was so frustrating, and, spent that time getting to know Carla, listening to her stories. She didn't have to open up to me, and she did, and I learned so much more than I ever really wanted to learn about being homeless.
Obviously, there's a sense of trust between the two of you. How about for you, Carla, in terms of how faith has played a role in your salvation, really?
Oh, wow. Faith, without, excuse me, Without without good Christian people that provide these showers, like at the Salvation Army or the Gospel House that provide meals, a lot of people wouldn't survive. And the Gospel House, where there's beds which is an option for a lot of them, those are all big things. And payphones.
What would it mean to you to have a roof over your house, over your head?
If I had a roof over my head, I would just faint. Especially if I knew I didn't have to move in the next 6 months or so. Yeah, that's a part of going to these shelters. You take in what you take in out of your vehicle what you need to survive in that room, and then if you get kicked out in 32 or 72 hours because of a conflict with one or two of the residents or more, then you have to carry all that stuff back down again. And so it becomes even very frustrating to even try to do that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, obviously this is something that's near and dear to you, Laura, because I know that you have your opinions on the best way to deal with homelessness, and having that roof over your head is an integral part of that, isn't it?
Housing first. Housing first. I ran across an article, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, about the housing first method, if you want to call it. And I started posting about it on my Facebook page, and I got a lot of interest. What I feel like is that there are a lot of people in this community who want to help, and they just don't know exactly what to do. And raising money to buy Carla a van was, one small way that they could do it, and they jumped on it in full force. And I was thrilled, to be able to raise enough money to buy Carla a van. But it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. Like the places that Carla mentioned are wonderful, to get people shelter temporarily, and some of them are just for a night, and I understand that, you can stay for a night, but you got to leave in the morning. Well, people who are on the fringe, I consider Carla to be on the fringe. She's an RN. She's worked in, medical facilities in this valley over her career, and for whatever reason, 6 years ago, she had a break from that and hasn't been able to get back on her feet since then. So people like Carla especially, who could benefit from dealing with maybe some counseling, maybe some career guidance or something like that, get those folks a place to live so that they can work on whatever their other issues are. That's what I want to see.
Well, I certainly appreciate you taking time and trusting us to be able to tell your story, and for you to be able to talk to us about your plight right now. And hopefully that things improve for you in your life, and going forward, we wish you only the best of luck.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and to God go the glory for all of this.
Laura, thank you for bringing this to our attention.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Steve Hare, NCW Life News.